Good morning, Life Community Church. So glad you're here with us this morning. Would you stand up as we worship our God together? Now the darkness fades into new beginnings as we lift our eyes to a hope beyond. All creation waits within expectation to declare the reign of the Lord our God. We will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave, for the risen one is overcome. And now the silence breaks in the name of Jesus, as the heavens cry, let the earth respond. All creation shouts with the voice of triumph to declare the reign of the Lord our God. Yeah, we will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave, for the risen one is overcome. He shall reign forever, strongholds now surrender, for the Lord our God is overcome. Who can be against us? Jesus our defender, he is Lord and he has overcome. He shall reign forever, strongholds now surrender, for the Lord our God is overcome. Who can be against us? Jesus our defender, he is Lord and he has overcome. And we will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave, for the risen one is overcome. We will not be moved when the earth gives way, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave, for the risen one is overcome. Yeah.
God is able, he will never fail. He is Almighty God.
Good morning, Life Community Church. We are so excited to be here with you this morning, here in person and online.
Good morning, Joey.
Good morning,
It's
Will.
good to
How are
see
you?
you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. How are you
Yes.
doing?
I'm great. I'm
Good.
great. I'm feeling good.
Hey, guess what?
What?
Do you know what's happening Sunday?
Maybe.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I know is happening
Okay.
Sunday. Our Rooted kickoff is starting this Sunday. We are so excited for you to be able to get registered and become a part of a Rooted group. Will, you've been a part of Rooted. I've been a part of Rooted. Tell me a little bit about your experience.
It was great in that we were able to, as a small group of Life Community churchgoers, we were able to get to know each other a little bit better. We were able to kind of open the doors to our trust and be able to share things, to be able to grow, not only in our faith, but with each other.
Right, in your
and,
relationships.
And to be able to just move forward. But there was some cool opportunities to serve together.
That's true.
And it was a really great experience. How about you?
Well, it was really interesting for us because we haven't been here very long, so it allowed us to meet a lot of new people that we didn't know, and just kind of broaden our scope of the people that we could interact with at church. You know, we'd only been here a short time, so it was really, really helpful in that. And
Totally.
So please, if you can, be a part of a Rooted group. There's a link that you can click on, and that will take you to get your registration going.
Mm-hmm. And do you know what else is happening?
I don't, but I sure hope you're going to tell me.
There is something on the 18th that's happening that's going to be a lot of fun for all the families out there.
Ooh, I'm
We're going to
excited.
do a little back-to-school drive-through carnival.
Woo! Let's do it. I'm
And-
in. What do we do?
And
What do we
so the thing that I'm actually really looking forward to
Oh, no.
is that we actually get stuff, I think, to actually like shoot out our window.
Really?
At Targets. And so Connie and Laura, you better watch
Watch
yourselves.
out, for
So-
sure.
And the other cool thing is it's kind of like littering, but it's not really littering because we're going to pick up after.
Right? Well, and we're telling you to. So come be a part of it. Bring your kids. Just come and have a good time with us. We want to celebrate that school is back in session. And so we're going to get started. Take a look at the worship, and we'll see you soon.
Need no other hiding place. Our hope is safe within your name. This we know, this we know. You promised never to forsake. What you begin, you will sustain. This we know, this we know. I will call upon the Lord, for He alone is strong enough to save. Rise, your shackles are no more, for Jesus Christ has broken every chain. Of the heavens and the earth, announce the fullness of your worth. This we know, this we know. And every enemy will flee as we declare victory. This we know. Let's sing this out. Jesus' name will break every stronghold. Freedom is ours when we call His name.
enemy wants us to think that we are abandoned, that we are hated, that we are alone. But God has created us to realize again and again that we are loved, that we are to be together and belong. Let's sing that out to the Lord.
Oh, you called me out of darkness. You silence every lie, and no other voice will define me. I belong to you. I belong to you. Oh, you called me out of darkness. You silence every lie, and no other voice will define me. I belong to you. I belong to you. No, the enemy can't take what I am, change who I am. I belong to you. You know the enemy can't take what I am, change who I am. I belong to you. By your blood I've been adopted. I've taken on your name, and I need to be reminded that I belong to you. I belong to you. You know the enemy can't take what I am, change who I am. I belong to you. You know the enemy can't take what I am, oh, change who I am. I belong to you. Greater are you who's in me than he who's in the world. The words you have spoken are stronger than the curse. Greater are you who's in me than he who's in the world. The words you have spoken are stronger than the curse. Stronger than the curse. Let's sing it out. You know the enemy can't take what I am, change who I am. I belong to you. You know the enemy can't take what I am, oh, change who I am. I belong to you. I belong to you. I belong to you, yeah. No one can take from me my destiny. I belong Oh, I belong to you.
Good morning, Life Community Church. Welcome to online. You get to join us and grow a little closer to Jesus from the comfort of your couch. Here at Life, we're all about growing people closer to Jesus, and we're going to do that any way possible, either in our parking lot or in your homes online. Because the church is not a building, it is you. Jesus came to save your life, not a building. So we're glad wherever you are in life, we're glad you're here with us. We've been talking and going through James, talking about old wisdom for a new normal. New normal. It's the new normal, the new normal, new normal. I don't know about you, but I've heard this phrase so many times, it drives me absolutely wild. But as we learn in James, the new normal may not be that new after all. People have been struggling with the same thing for years and years and years. And I know myself, you probably haven't struggled with the taming of your tongue, but I know I have. And so we're going to dive into that. So James chapter 3, why don't you join with me today? We're going to start with verse 2. Indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we control our tongues, we would be perfect and would also control ourselves in every other way. James comes out right out of the gate out of this. Like, he's hard hitting. We go on. We can make a large horse go wherever we want by the means of a small bit in its mouth. So I got a couple stories for you today, and they both involve my uncle and my grandpa. So when you're visiting my uncle, I want you to think about somebody in your life that you go to when you need advice. Like almost like an Uncle Jesse type figure from Full House, if you guys remember that show. I grew up on it. It's one of my favorites. Somebody who you go to for advice, wisdom, when things are bad and you just need a hug. You know, you need anything, just taking you under wing and maybe taught you new skills. So I want you to think of that person. Now I want you to think about the exact opposite, and you got my uncle. So my uncle and my family on my mom's side, they're all rodeo people. They all have horses. They all do all these things. So I remember when I was 4 years old and even younger, my grandpa would take us out on his horse. And so he would get on his horse and he'd put us on his horse and we would ride together. And I remember it was so great because I would be on the horse and I always remembered I was so little, I was so scared that my grandpa would hold the reins and I would hold the safety knob, is what I referred to it. And I would just hold on to that where my knuckles would turn right because I'm gripping on it so tight because I wanted to be there and I wanted to experience it, but I was so terrified. And every once in a while, I would grab the reins and on my grandpa's hands and go with him where he controlled the horse. My uncle one day goes, hey, I'm going to go out. Do you want to go riding with me? I was like, yeah, I've never ridden with my uncle. I would love to. And so I was excited. He comes and gets me from the house and we walk out and there's not one, but 2 horses. So my little mind, I'm thinking maybe my aunt's coming out to ride with us. You know, maybe I'll get to ride with her as well. You know, I don't know who the second horse is. And my uncle picks me up and puts me on the horse. Now, mind you, these aren't normal horses. These horses are like 60 feet tall. I mean, they're gigantic. They're like almost elephant-sized horses. So I'm terrified. And then he gets on the horse next to me, and I'm like, what are you thinking? I can't ride this by myself. I'm 4. But what my uncle knew, and what James knew, is that I can control the horse. Even 4-year-old Chris controlled a horse. The problem was James didn't tell me and my uncle didn't tell me that I had that power. I was just terrified the whole time. I wanted to hold my safety knob. My uncle said, no, you got to hold the reins and you could control them. I was terrified. But James says we can make a large horse go wherever we want by a small bit in its mouth. He goes on verse 4 and says, and a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go. Again, my grandpa would get us a houseboat every year. And we'd go out to this lake called Don Pedro, this great lake. He had a ski boat, and we'd go tubing behind it. And my grandpa would take me and my cousins out, and we'd go about 5 miles an hour on the road, on the water, and it was the greatest thing ever, and it was nice and fun. And then he'd drag us back in, and we'd be done. So my uncle goes, "Hey, you guys want to go tubing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a blast." And you're like thinking, have we not learned, Chris? I know I was in junior high. I wasn't that smart. I was like, "Yeah, let's go tubing." My uncle immediately throttles that thing. We're going about 200, 250 miles an hour across the water, just flying. And I was just screaming, once again, white knuckles, holding on to this tube as hard as I can. And because he turns it just a little bit, he was able to control the boat just a little bit. The tube flung out, and I flew, bouncing across the lake about 3 miles, just like Morse code across the lake, finally stopping about 3 miles away. I was terrified. I only went on a tube 2 more times in my life. One, because there was a girl involved. I won't tell that story now. The other one, John Samson, the man, the myth, the legend, said, "Hey, I'll take care of you. Don't worry. I'll let him tell the story about how he threw me." But in his defense, it was only about a mile that time that I flew. But it's amazing. James knew, my uncle knew, anybody who has a boat or horse knows you can control these things with just a little bit of effort. He goes on, "But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire." We live in California. It's summertime. Every year, we do not need a story about this. We breathe in that air all the time. Some of us have maybe lost something in the fires of California. We know that a tiny strike of lightning, a tiny ember, a tiny cigarette, anything can start a huge forest fire and destroy a ton of things. Verse 6, "And the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself." I imagine the fires that destroy and destroy and destroy. And it is amazing that James is saying, so can your tongue. I think so often we lose so much credibility, and we create so much destruction because we say dumb things. We do negative things. We go down to verse 12. "Does a fig tree produce olives, or a grapevine produce figs? No, and you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring. And you can't both worship God and curse. It's one or the other." This story hit me hard. It reminded me of this time. For those of you who don't know, I've been here about 1.5 years working at Life Community Church, but I've only been living in Roseville for about a year now. And what I would do is every day I would commute home. I lived in Modesto, California. That's where I was born and raised. Modesto, California is about an 1.5 hour drive with no traffic. So Sunday mornings I'd wake up. It'd take me about 1.5 hours to drive here. It was nice and easy in the mornings. Nobody was on the road. I'd get here. We'd go to the 9:15 a.m. service, back when we're all filling this room. And I'd worship God. And I'd hear Pastor Kyle give a message. And I'd feel the presence of the Lord. And then the junior hires, high schools were coming, and we'd worship together. And then I'd take them into the room, and I'd preach Jesus. And it was just an amazing morning. Problem is, I had to get back in my car, and the roads weren't so clear now. So I had to go from the 65 to the 80 to the 99. 65, I wasn't on there too long, so it wasn't too bad. 80's pretty good. Once I get to the 99, I go through Sacramento, and I get right past Elk Grove, and there's 4 lanes, and it goes down to 2. And for some reason, people forget how to drive. And they forget, if we just let people in and zip people in, it'd be great, and we keep going. But everybody's got to be the first one in line and go past. And I'd be like, ah, and I'd say these mean things and just yell at people, and they couldn't even hear me. And I was so upset and so angry, and I was just negative things were just coming out of my mouth. And I got home, and I remember thinking, man, I went from preaching Jesus to an hour later yelling at his creation. And I thought, God, I just remember getting on, God, please take this sin from my life. I am destructive. I don't need it anymore. Can you please take it? And miraculously, it left, and I was no longer had that sin in my life till the next day when I drove home and I got past Elk Grove, and it goes from 4 lanes to 2, and then somebody comes running down, and he's driving on the side of the road trying to get ahead and cuts me off, and I pray, and I go, God, the only way I can get over this, I think, is if I just stop driving. So we moved, and I have about a 5-minute commute, and I go, all right, this is great. This is great. I won't have this problem anymore. But then I get on East Roseville Parkway, and I turn right onto Washington, which should be a merge lane. It should be no problem. Everybody should be going. But then some people stop because they think it's a stoplight. And it's a problem of my heart that I need to give to Jesus. So I thought, man, get a little defensive, right? Who does James think he is telling us things like this? So I looked up James, as any good pastor would do. See, where else does he show up in the Bible? And he shows up a couple times in the Gospels. And I remember this one time in John chapter 7, where him and Jesus and a couple other disciples were walking and doing, and Jesus was going to preach, and he was going to do these things. And James goes, why don't we not? Why don't we hold up? Now, he's not talking to just anybody. He's talking directly to Jesus. And he's saying, Jesus, this is just not a good idea. I'm going to tell you to stop right now. Let's just move on. And Jesus calls him out. And it makes me think, James, you're kind of nervy. You come and telling me to watch my tongue when you're telling Jesus, the creator of everything, to slow down. But what I love about this passage, which shows true to my life and to the high schoolers and junior hires' lives that I've witnessed to and been in all my years of life, and a lot of the adults, pretty much everybody I know, that the closer you are to Jesus, the more transformation there is in your life. I love this story because James goes from rebuking the maker of heaven and earth to saying, you know what? Learn from me. I once said some things that I don't regret. And don't forget, James was a person who was quick to speak, not quick to think about what he was speaking. So he knows the Bible's riddled with things of him just blah, 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 and then him probably regretting it. And he's saying in James 3 again, learn from me. The tongue is evil. Learn from me. If I stop there, this would be such a downer of a message. It's like, yeah, don't be negative. Everybody could do that. But what happens when that person cuts you off and you don't know what to do and you just get angry? For those of you who don't drive, maybe you're on Facebook. I know Pastor Kyle brings this up every week, but it's true now as it is ever. Sometimes something gets posted on Facebook and we don't take time to think. We just, you're wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And we just take negativity and add negativity and add negativity over and over and over and over again. And it ends up just festering deep down in our soul and destroying us. So I have another idea. And I thought, what should we use for this idea? And I thought, you know what? Let's use Jesus. Because we could always use Jesus as an example. I thought, in Genesis 1, God created the heavens and the earth. He spoke it into existence. He took life and literally spoke it into existence. The positivity, the animals, the land, the seas, everything is spoken. If we're in John 7, but if we go to John 1, I'm just going to read it for you. It is amazing. This is, in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. What if we lived like that? I'm going to get real with you in a minute. In my life, I have, struggle is not the right word, because struggle means that I've put up a fight. But in my life, depression has taken over. In times of my life, it has beaten me. Depression was such a heavy thing in my life and brought me down, and the negativity of this world and the negativity of my thoughts, I thought I could never overcome. And I remember this one time, I'm thinking, I'm never going to amount to anything. James 1 said, life is, your word is a light. But I felt I could never produce any light to anybody. And I remember just being just destroyed. And a friend of mine sat me down and said, Chris, one of these days, you are going to preach to millions. You have an incredible story, and your light will shine through to millions. We got, I think, 2 people in this room, so we're almost there. But that word remains true to me. And every time that I start feeling the negativity of this world and the negativity of my thoughts, I think to what my friend said, you will preach to millions. In my life, a lot of people have spoken words of life to me, words of positivity that have carried me through and made me a stronger person. So when somebody says something negative to me, I could go, that could be true, but I have more positive words in my life. In John chapter 8, there's a story of Jesus. This is a woman caught in adultery. And if you haven't read this story, read it. It is a sermon by itself. And I'm just going to kind of quickly go over it, but there's some good stuff over here. The Pharisees, the kind of rulers of the day who thought they knew what was going on, were trying to stump Jesus. They're trying to get Jesus. Like I said before, you're trying to make Jesus like wrong, you're going to lose. There's a good chance. And so they bring this woman and said, she's caught in adultery. What should we do? We actually, by law, should kill her. We should stone her. And Jesus, in this moment, beautiful moment of just fear and anger and all these things going on. I'm sure this woman was terrified. The Pharisees were angry, and Jesus stoops down and starts drawing in the dirt. I challenge you. When somebody cuts you off, when somebody makes you upset, instead of reacting, what if we just took a moment and drew in the dirt? Don't do that while you're driving. That's a bad idea. But just take a moment and breathe and calm down the situation instead of adding hostility to it. Jesus says, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. This is one of the greatest lines I think Jesus has ever given. It's one of my favorites. It's by far, because these people came to him thinking, I got you, Jesus. And he goes, all right, let's take a moment. Then he rebuttals. You don't have no sin in your life. Go ahead. What's he do? He goes back, finishes little sandcastle, and starts going to town. And Jesus is just drawing, and he's not even paying attention. And I want to know, when I get to heaven, I want to know this woman, what she was thinking the whole time. Like, he's like, I don't know, I think he's on my side, but like he's just drawing in the sand, and I'm still really scared. And slowly, one by one, these leaders leave. And Jesus gets up and he says, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? What's great about this story and his line before, that the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. The only one there who has never sinned is Jesus. He wasn't quick to pick up rocks. He was quick to draw in the sand and calm down the situation. He then speaks life into her. He says, neither do I. I don't condemn you either. The only one who could is go and sin no more. Jesus will breathe life into you, but he'll also say, hey, those things in the past, let's move on from them. He's done that a lot in my life. What I love about all this is Jesus wants to speak life into you. And I don't know about you. I hope you do, but I want to be like Jesus. I want one day to somebody be on a stage and be like, you know what? There's this guy long ago, and he could have chose to spoke negative into my life, but he chose to speak positivity into my life. And because of those kind words, I fell closer in love with Jesus. So my challenge for you this week, and I am praying that you take it to heart. I'm not encouraging you, I am challenging you. If I'm a junior high minister, I'd say I double dog dare you. Speak positive words to someone you normally wouldn't. To speak positive words to somebody who may not deserve them. Speak positive words to your spouse, to your kids, to your neighbor who's mowing lawns way too early. Speak positive words. Because in that way, we could shine like Jesus did. We can shine and bring life and change this world for the better. If we take a minute to not automatically respond, automatically pick up a rock, if we take a minute to draw in the dirt, breathe, de-escalate the situation, and breathe life into people, this world will change for the better. Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for the opportunity to preach to people your love. I thank you that we live in a time that when everything's shut down, we can still invade houses and invade other houses that may not know you and stumble across you, and that we can preach no matter what is going on in the outside world, and we can grow closer to you. I pray this week you give us opportunities to show your love. I pray that you give us the courage to take a moment, breathe, and breathe life into people. I thank you for everything you've done in our lives. In your name, amen.
God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. Let's live into that this morning as we sing out. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I hold, when brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to the lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. Let's sing it out. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love.
Thank you again for worshiping with us together. I love Chris talking about words because they're so powerful and can be so difficult. Jesus says it this way. He says that from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And what I want to remind you is Jesus does not want to change your behavior. He wants to change your life. And that includes your heart, your behavior, and everything. Like I said at the beginning, one of the most transformational things that we offer here at this church is our Rooted experience. It's a 10-week life-changing journey in community together. I want to encourage you to click that link and sign up for it because we're launching next week. Lastly, thanks so much for being a part of what we're doing. Thank you for all of you who are continuing to give financially. You can click that link there. Thank you for your continual generosity and believing that God is a God of abundance. God is a God of more. And that when we partner with God generously, it creates joy in us and changes the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you. We'll see you next week.